Welcome to another episode of The Artsy Raven, a show about writing and publishing with your host, J.F. Garrard.
Welcome to another episode of the Artsy Raven podcast. Today, we'll be talking about writing speculative fiction while surviving being a mother with Melissa Small. Melissa is a mother of 2 boys, and her husband also shares all her nerdy hobbies. She is a member of the Star Wars Rebel Legion and 501st Canadian Garrison. She is a horse lover and has 3 horses. Melissa has published several short stories. Stories in the Way Through and Still by Polar Expressions Publishing. Her stories called Fate of the SeaWitch and Demons, Futuristic Canada by Dark Helix Press. Her story in that is called Poutine, Bugs, and Big Bessie, and 8 short stories in Myth magazine, Wool of Time, Boom, Soleless, SeaWitch Stories, Dealbreaker, Snow Magic, and Getting the Shot. Melissa is currently working on a YA Dragon book series. So Melissa, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you started writing stories?
Well, I live out near Barrie area, and I've been writing about, I guess, since high school. I had a learning disability in school, so when I started to want to write, I had a little trouble with grammar and all that because in school, instead of teaching back when I was a kid, they would just throw you in a class and give you toys. So I had a really kind teacher who kind of took me under her wing and was teaching me when the others wouldn't do it. And then when I got into high school, my one teacher, he was very kind and he read us The Hobbit. And I just fell head over heels for all The Hobbit and the stories. And so after that, it was just, I wanted to write. And then I had kids, so it kind of got set on the back burner.
Yeah, I have to say kids sort of, oh gosh, they're like little vampires. In a way, like, I mean, you love them and you want to take care of them. At the same time, I feel like my brain is splitting trying to deal with them. And then writing almost feels selfish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mine are a little older now. So one's 21 and 17, but they seem to need more when they get older than when they were little.
What? Don't tell me that.
One's in college, so you're helping them out with this college homework, and then the other one's in grade 12, and you're like helping them just try to get through the grade 12 year, through all of this, through, yes, you're in school, no, you're not in school, yes, you're in school. They just feel like they're on this yo-yo and they're going up and down. And yeah.
So did you also write when they were younger, or did you start writing
I did
more
a
when they got
little
older?
bit. We did a little book with some friends that we self-published, and it was on the SeaWitch. And so I had a little piece, and there was 3 of us. I had a little piece in it where I did the sea, my friend did land, and another friend did the air, and we had them all kind of corroborate together at the end, where all the characters meet together at the end of the book. And we were selling that at conventions and that. I was back just before I had the kids, and then I did little short stories, mostly fan fiction. It was very bad for like getting lost in the Harry Potter world. So my friend slapped me in the head one day and said, "Why are you writing fan fiction? Like, what are you doing?" So after that, I started writing my own stories again. And that was about,
I don't think there's any shame in writing fan fiction. I mean, look at what's it, 50 Shades of Grey. Oh my God, that's like the success story for fan fiction.
for that, yeah.
But so how do you allocate your time now? Like you have to help your kids, you're at home, you have your horses. Oh my gosh, horses,
Yeah.
that's like more kids, really.
That's more kids. Yeah, that's more kids. So what I do is I get up in the morning, the chores get done, and while they're eating, I work on my stories. And then I'll go out, I'll ride a little bit, and then I'll come back in and I'll work on more stories. And of course, then there's chores at night. And so I have a wonderful group, which is the WYCR group in Toronto, and they've been wonderful. They do write-ins on Mondays and Sundays. And so Sunday morning I do a write-in, and then Monday night I try to make the write-ins on Monday nights, but it's harder at night with the kids being home or wanting supper, and and hey, I forgot to do my homework, and so you're running to help them with their homework. And so
So it sounds like you allocate time specifically, like with your writing group, like I'll do an hour here or 2 hours, and then that's how you focus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So why did you choose to write fantasy and you write science fiction as well?
Yeah, fantasy and science fiction. I got really sick a few years ago working at a really bad job, and my anxiety went through the roof, and I needed something to do to, after I left it, to calm the nerves. So I started writing again, and the science fiction and fantasy really called to me, as Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit as a kid, and then I'm into Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. So I like mixing kind of the two up and kind of putting it in a shaker and just kind of giving it a little shake and kind of play with both worlds. And dragons were a huge part when I was a little girl. I think I owned every little dragon stuffed animal. Between dragons and horses, I couldn't decide which one I'd rather ride. So, so for me, both worlds. I mean, magic and science are sort of the same thing. You really look at it. You turn on a light bulb, that could be magic to somebody in the past. So I always
Mm-hmm.
look at them as sort of the two, same sort of thing, except one runs, electricity, and the other runs with magic. So it just depends on your outlook of how to look at it. So
Now, I worked with you with on Dark Helix for Futuristic Canada, and that story was sort of a space opera. I think that was, it was, I guess, science fiction, but at the same time, it was mixed with fantasy because there's this other race, right? So
yeah,
that's the whole speculative fiction stuff. Like, do you ever?
and I always love the old movies, the old
Mhm.
science fiction movie, the claymation, all of that kind of stuff. Always, so when I was writing it, I was thinking that and then putting kind of a Canada twist on it.
So do you ever write pure, what they call, what's pure fantasy versus pure science fiction? What do you think the
I am a
difference
little
is?
bit right now with the Dragon series. It's sort of an urban fantasy, and
Hmm.
it takes place here in my area, in the Midland and Elmville area. So it's with a young girl that opens up dragon eggs in the tiny marsh. So I've been playing with that a little bit.
Okay, and then the story will be about her. Like, is it a series of books you're planning?
Yeah, it's a series of books, and it's about her learning that she's a hatcher, and that she's destined to hatch dragon eggs, because the dragons can't hatch their own eggs anymore. They had a large dragon war, and the dragons have lost the ability to hatch their own eggs due to environmentally, through fighting with magic. Same as with science, like if you use too much, you leave an like an essence left over, and they can't hatch their eggs anymore through that.
Okay,
So you
so
have to put it off on other worlds.
now you were talking about, so where are you in the book? You have an editor and you're finished the first book already, or?
I'm finished 3 books already,
Okay.
and right now my friend is editing all the books for me so that it can be ready for a publisher. So that's what we're on the work right now, is just editing at least the first book and get it through, so that when I start to submit to publishers, I can have it ready to go and have it more polished before they see it.
That sounds pretty ambitious. Finish 3 books and then
There,
have them
yeah,
edited, go after the publishers. So I
yeah,
wish
I
you,
know. I know
uh,
it's huge, but I figured if J.K. Rowling's can do it, why not? We'll
yeah,
give it a
why
shot.
not, right? That is
Yeah.
true.
And it's all
And
in Canada, so I wanted to really
okay.
keep the theme of that it is in Canada, it's happening in Canada. We have we have a whole lot of stuff that's happened. I don't want to give anything away on it, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of different things we put in there that is Canadian, that only, if you're from Canada or know of Canada, you would know what they were. So
I don't know if you've ever considered looking at the Ontario Arts Council website. Like, there's lists of Canadian publishers, and they
okay.
also have grants that you could try to apply for. Maybe
Oh, okay.
it'll help.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be great. Thanks.
so yeah, so have a look at
Yeah,
that,
I'll have a
and
look at that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they have a whole list of Canadian public. Even if you don't get the grant, at least the contact information's there.
Yeah, the contact information's there. I can see if I can.
Yeah, because I think for books set in Canada, you're probably looking at a Canadian publisher.
Oh yeah,
So
it's a
yeah.
Canadian publisher. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so you write a lot of short stories, and I'm
Yeah.
guessing you probably face a lot of rejection. So how do you cope with such a thing?
It's hard, especially with a person with a learning disability coming from that. I had to really focus on the fact that this is a learning curve, and that each time you submit, each time you get a rejection, you at least tried. And if you don't try, you'll never know. So I just keep trying, and sometimes they come back and they'll say, this might have worked better or whatever. And I try to take everything basically with a grain of salt. Like so that person may not like it, but this next company may go, oh my God, that's the best thing ever. So you just keep trying. You never give up.
Yeah, writing is so subjective, and editing is
Yeah.
subjective as well. So it just depends I don't know, sometimes it's luck and opportunity to see whether or not they
Yeah,
match up, right?
yeah.
Um, so in this age of information overload, how do you deal with marketing yourself as an author? Because like it's not just publishing these days, right? Like just because you publish something doesn't mean people will know about it. So in a way, the author is the best spokesperson for their own work. Like, have you done some marketing for yourself?
I have done some marketing through the WYCR group in Toronto, and then I've done through friends who will put it up on their Facebook pages, or my husband works at a library, so when the Futuristic Canada came out, it went to all the libraries in Simcoe County. They all got a little notice that we were out there and that. So I try to kind of keep the name out there and keep sort of poking as best I can. You know, it's all the more they see you, the more they go, oh, that person. So just trying to be on the internet and kind of be there so you see it.
Yeah, same thing at conventions. I heard people have
Yeah,
to see you like 3 to 4 times before they'll actually take a chance and try your book, right? So,
yeah.
do you have any writing advice for people who find it difficult to finish a story? Like
Just keep it.
everyone says they want to write,
Yeah.
right? But
It's hard. I know that from when the first time I started, I got about halfway through and I went, where am I going with this? And I got really lucky because I went to a seminar that was done at Astra, and they had Jim Butcher there, and he showed what kind of just went boom for me, and it was the arch way of writing. So you have the ending and you have the beginning and you have the ending, and I had that. I didn't have the middle, so he kind of showed how to do the arch and how to be able to branch out each chapter and kind of fill them in. So that really helped. Once I had that, pretty much it all blew up after that. So it was a lot of fun to build the world, and building the world took me almost 2 years to build the world. So
yeah, I
because
have a
it's
friend that
large.
writes literary fiction. He's like, I don't know why you're writing fantasy. Why do you want to do all this work with world building when you can just use what's there? I was like, yeah, but it's just not as interesting, you know?
Yeah,
So,
it's not as fun to play in. I mean, I love like world building. I think that's the best part. I play D&D, so we've done our own campaigns, we've written our own campaigns. So to be able to branch out and do your own world where this is yours, no one else's, this is your world. You get to choose where the characters go. You're playing God, or a goddess, to all these characters, right? So it's so much fun. You get to decide who lives and dies, and it's just one of the fun parts of I find writing is the world building.
so are you a, what are the two terms? Plotter or pantser, right? Is that what they call it? The
Yeah,
plotter are the
I'm a
people that
plotter.
outline.
I
Yeah.
plot like from the beginning. Well, I don't always keep it, but I try to have my beginning and my end, and then I try to have everything sort of come in between before I start writing. And then once I have all that, then I kind of know where to go for each one. I don't always follow it. On my second book, I realized I kind of veered off the path and kind of had to, but I liked where I went, so I kind of had to go up and around and a few curves and come back to where I wanted to end at, but I made it there. So but yeah, I'm a plotter. I try to figure out where everything's going to go, and I'm kind of Sheldon in that way.
Yeah, I've been, because I'm writing a book too, and I'm sort of stuck. So then I started looking at what other people are doing, and other people say they have formulas, just follow this formula. And I sort of look at it. I follow a little bit, but everyone's book is different, right?
Yeah. And
Um,
everyone writes so differently. Like every brain thinks it in a different way. So it all processes differently. And your plots and your all that kind of stuff that you're building is all you. It's all part of you. So everyone's going to be different how they end up going down that same tunnel to finish the book. It's all a different view.
yeah, although I lately I've been doing some picture boards, like I sort of take pictures of what I think the world sort of looks like, and it helps me sort of
Yeah.
go into the world a bit when I write. So that helps a bit. Do you have any writing advice for people just starting to write and they just don't know how to start? Like, what should they do?
Get an idea. Sometimes what I found when I got the idea for my dragons, well, I got sick and it came to me in a dream, but I did a lot of research afterwards online, especially for like whatever topic you're looking at, look up the actual research. So I did the research on dragons and where dragons were found, and that they're pretty much all over the world. So what you were is I was able to kind of play with where they all came from, and I had to look up ley lines and stuff like that because ley lines, now my book I've changed because they don't run through where you want them to go. But I always found that if you just sort of look up what you're thinking about doing, sometimes you might see something that would give you an idea to write the book. So
Oh,
that's,
I find it so interesting. You're talking about researching dragons. I'm like, I thought they were mythical, but still, there's a lot. It's still based on something.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
they're actually every single continent basically and large populations had a dragon myth.
Hmm.
Even the Aboriginals or the First Nations, I should say, had a dragon theory or a
Oh,
dragon.
really?
Yeah, there's a dragon under Niagara Falls.
What?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's a dragon
okay.
under Niagara Falls. There's another myth that I heard in Newfoundland that there's a dragon in a cave in Newfoundland.
Oh, very
So in
cool.
our story, we have him. The reason why he's there is he's there to protect the skiers that aren't far away from there. So in the wintertime, he's like a winter style dragon. So in our story, that's where we have it. So we have all over Canada, like the dragons are everywhere. So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
So I know that you're working on your dragon books, but where can we find you if people want to look you up?
You can find me at author Melissa Small on Facebook, or Small Author Legacy at winsite.com.
Yeah, so I'll be posting those links in the description of the podcast so people can click and they can find your page and all your wonderful dragons. Now, I know you're going to share a little bit of a reading with us. So, do you want to tell us a little bit of context about what you're going to be reading before you start?
Yeah, I can. So it's Deal Breaker, and I wrote it last year when we all had to go into this quarantine. I wasn't doing very well. My husband wasn't doing very well at all. He's a librarian, so they sent him home, and then they wanted to send him to an old age home to work. So he wasn't doing very well. So I wrote this story about it's about a mayor that takes a deal with a demon,
Oh,
and it's what happens to him.
okay.
So I just have to grab it. So it's called Deal Breaker. It all started on a warm May day in 2020 during the quarantine of COVID-19, otherwise known as coronavirus. I was in my garden digging out weeds when out from the sky fell this thing. At first, I had no idea what landed only a few feet from me. It only took a few seconds, so for me to see it was a bird. Not a normal bird you would see in a town, nor one that would land in a garden. It was a seagull, and it looked like it'd been through hell and back. I stared at it, and it did something I was not expecting. It spoke. Sorry, I landed in your garden, Mrs. P. It's a very lovely garden, by the way. Demon bird! I yelled and tossed my small garden shovel at its head. Hit it right in the beak, knocking it to the ground. Hey, that hurt, Mrs. P. Don't you remember me? You taught me in school. It's me, Fred. And it stood back up on its feet, trying to use its wing to rub its beak. I'm not a demon. I'm just cursed by one. Wait, I'm talking to a bird who knows my name. This whole quarantine has gone to my head. Too many days stuck inside with nothing to do but Netflix and porn, I replied. I'm guessing you didn't want to admit that last one out loud, the bird said. I'm going crazy. No, wait, it's just a dream. All right, I must be asleep. It's time to wake up, I replied as I stood up and started pacing around my garden. Not a dream, Mrs. P. You're not crazy, and stop doing that. The neighbors will think you're crazy. Is there a quiet place we can go and talk? It asked. I nodded and led the bird around the back of the house. The house wasn't much, a small house in town with a small garden out front and along the side of the house. I moved here right after I retired from teaching. The place was perfect. It had gardens and huge bushes that blocked the view of the street. We can talk back here away from prying eyes, I said, leading the creature around the back. I added more bushes a few years ago after the nudist couple moved in next door. Pretty much was the weirdest thing to happen in this neighborhood until this happened. I'm talking to a bird that knows my name, and the bird is following me into my backyard. It followed me through the side gate, and I closed the gate behind us so that the neighbors across the way couldn't see me talking to a bird. The bird hopped up on one of my patio chairs. I must remind myself to burn that chair after this chat. And then it spoke. So I'm guessing you're wondering who I am and why I can talk. That would do for starts, I said, watching the bird very carefully. My name is Mayor Fred Barrel, but you might remember me from grade 10 English class. I was the kid with the braces and the red hair. I used to stay back and help you after class. Anyways, that was all so long ago. You'd probably not remember me after all the kids you taught. Let me take this from the beginning of all this mess. It started 3 days ago when I summoned a demon to help me, the bird began. Wait, Fred Burrell? That kid? I didn't vote for you, by the way. Why would you summon a demon? I said. Um, I didn't you learn anything from my class? Yes, I'm the town mayor now. Let me explain, the bird said and ruffled his feathers. I was desperate and almost out of money. I had major stocks in oil, gas, and as well as Disney resorts. It's all gone, all of it. I'm broke. I didn't know what to do. I was online and ordered this book on how to get rich. It was a self-help book, I learned now, that was written by a demon. But back then I didn't know. Apparently they all are, the bird mumbled. Anyways, long story short, in the book there was a spell, incantation, whatever you want to call it. And while I performed the spell, Mayor, I'm just an old woman, but even I know better than do a spell off a book I found on the internet. How did you even get elected? Laugh it up, Mrs. P. But like I said, I was desperate and at the end of my rope. I just thought, well, I'd try. And at first, the demon helped me. Money came my way and I needed more and more. And then one day he just took over as me. He's now running my office and I'm here as a bird. I don't know how to fix this. And I don't know what the demon's gonna do. The bird chipped out. I'm just an old retired school teacher. I'm not a demon hunter or a magic person. This is just like a storybook. Oh, wait. What about Mrs. Kitschy? Crazy lady that lives down by the beach. I heard she deals with voodoo. Maybe she could help you, I suggested. Lady, anything would do right now. Can you take me to her? My flying isn't very good, as you witnessed, and I'm not very good with directions. I had staff for that. The bird then hopped down from the chair and started to walk towards the gate. Hey, could we stop at the coffee shop? I'm dying for a latte, the bird cheeped. First, you're not getting in my car without riding in a cat carrier, I replied. No doo-doo in my Subaru. Wait, what? The mayor said. Cat carrier? He squawked. Safety first, I replied and went into the garage to get the cat carrier. The bird, when I came out, was sitting on the roof of my car and he had shit on my front window. This is why you have to ride in the carrier, I told him. He then swore, hopped back down off my car, and walked into the carrier. I picked up the carrier and set it in the front seat of my car. And then a few minutes later, we pulled up to the crazy lady's house and got out. How is this going to work with quarantine restrictions, social distancing, and all that? But before I could think about that, the lady came out of her house. About time you two got here. Take him around back of the house and I'll meet you there. I got to grab my things, she said, and slammed the door shut. I stood there speechless for a second time in one day. And then I walked around to the side door of the car, pulled out the cat carrier, set it on the ground, and opened the little door. This very jittery seagull walked out of it. You drive like an old lady. Did you not see that stop sign? He said, shaking. I think my flying is safer. He then looked at me and fluttered his feathers. You know, this isn't very comfy thing to travel in. Pillows, a throw rug, maybe some sort of side paneling wouldn't hurt, he added as he hopped along beside me towards the back of her place. As we walked through the gates, we were greeted by the most unexpected sight, literally a dump. There was garbage bags everywhere, a rusty old car, bed frames, and even two toilets. The toilets were the deal breaker for me. As we got around the back of her place, we saw her at her sliding door. She had a bag full of stuff and told us to set up on the old deck. The deck had seen better days, and I wasn't sure if the two of us could actually get up on the deck and hold my weight. So I grabbed the lawn chair off the deck and set it down on the lawn. She gestured for me to sit down on the lawn chair. The sea lady was a good 10 feet or more away from us, behind a little lawn table on her deck by the sliding door. Well, that should satisfy the social distance police. So mayor, she said, looking at the seagull. He was sitting on the post by the deck. You're wondering how to get your body back, the seer asked as she started pulling stuff out of the bag. The bag was a medium-sized bag that had a bunch of cat skulls and fish bones on it. Wow, you're good, lady. So how do I get my body back? He asked. Well, this might just be me, but I was wondering if you know why we were here and how you knew we were coming, I required. Sorry, but what do we call you? People usually refer to you as the crazy later. Ah, non-believer, she says. I have foreseen this event. You can refer to me as the seer. So you knew this virus was coming and you didn't warn anybody about it, the seagull asked. No, you idiot. I saw you making a deal with the demon. If I saw this virus coming, I would have made sure I was stuck on a tropical island, not here in this hellhole, she said as she glared at the bird. But how do you know I was coming? I asked. The cards told me, and the robin, the seer said. Robin, the psychic in tights? I replied. No, not the bat Robin, the actual Robin. He got cursed 4 months ago and came to me to see if I could break the curse. There's a cure, all right, but you're both not going to like it. You have to sacrifice a baby, she said with a straight face. Done, said the seagull. Where do I get a baby? Hey, lady, I'm guessing you're not going to help me kidnap a kid and offer it to. Hell no, you little monster. I said, you can't even think of that. I asked, standing up so fast the chair fell out from behind me and I almost went with it. Greedy little mare, aren't you? The seer said. This is how you got into the mess, and this is how you're going to get out of it. She tossed a dead toad on the table and began to cut it open, looking through the entrails. To release this curse, you must give up what you really want, she replied as she dug around the guts. Do you really need to do that? I asked, clenching my stomach. No, I just wanted to see if it grossed you out, the seer asked, smiling me. Yes, very much. This is why witches get a bad rap, I replied. I'm not a witch, she yelled. I'm a seer, she replied back very calmly. Wait, I thought you were a voodoo lady, the seagull said. Quiet, she snapped. This was all your fault, gull. Now I know now where was I? She said as she rooted through her bag looking for something. Ah, she said as she lifted out a long dagger. You need this to kill the demon, and you need this sheep's eyeball, she said as she tossed me the eyeball. Like a baseball player, I caught it in my hand. It was slimy and gooey, and I looked at her in disgust. What is this for? I asked as I usually tried to hold down the contents of my stomach. Nothing, it's nothing. I just wanted to see if you could catch it, she replied with a laugh. I tossed the eyeball back at her. She ducked. It hit the wall of the house, bounced off it, and hit the gull. He squawked as he fell off his perch. Is that okay?
Okay. Thank you very much for your reading.
It was a little more, but it went on longer, so I figured that was the best spot.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So, thank you for being on the show. And I hope that your dragon book series all works out and that you'll find a Canadian publisher that will be willing to help you with your trilogy, because it's pretty awesome. You wrote all 3 at once.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to write. It was fun coming up with the characters, and I love dragons, so it was just fun to work with one. And Red's named after my dad. My dad passed away a few years ago from cancer, so I wanted to have something eventually over time to find a character I could kind of name after my dad. So Red is a red dragon, of course, and so he has sort of the Irish attitude because my dad was old Irish. So
I'm sure he would have been proud of you.
Yeah,
you made him into a dragon and all.
He made him into a dragon. Yeah, with the.
Okay, well, I'll see you at another convention maybe after all this COVID is over. One day. So, okay, thank you very much. Okay, bye.
Bye.
For more upcoming episodes of the Artsy Raven about writing and publishing, visit us at jfgarrard.com/arpodcast. A reminder to Patreon subscribers that there's bonus content available for every episode on the Patreon website. If you enjoyed the show, you can show your appreciation by buying us some digital coffee. The Artsy Raven is produced by J.F. Garrard. The voice in the show's introduction is Chris Gorman, and music is by Tim Moore. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe.